Hi, welcome to the coaching game and coaches
He's
creating
creating
change.
change. And Laurie and Terry Yoffe, we're here in May. May already? Oh
You know,
my word. Where have we gone?
it's
May.
we've gone, I don't know. It's just that they keep saying the older you get, the faster it goes, and I'm not going to dispute that. I just have never seen anything go quite this quickly. It seems just like yesterday we were 2023. What are we going to do? And here we are in almost the middle of the month.
You're right. And it's, as I say, I put my head down. It's Monday. I lift my head and it's Friday. I
Yeah.
don't, I just don't know.
I think that's a good sign. It's a good sign that we're busy and we're creating and people are getting back into the groove and things like that. But it's just, you just do. Our advice to you is take a little time to refurbish and to do one thing that you like every day. I'm really working on that. It's like, okay, at least one thing every day I'm going to do just for me, not for anybody else, just for me.
And
So
what does that include?
that includes I'm taking a couple balance classes, which I'd like. I'm surprised, but I like them.
Are
And
they
it includes
online? Sorry.
yeah, online.
Okay.
And it includes reading. Reading, it's like, okay, I remember how to read. I just haven't had time, but I'm going to make time. So, yeah. What about you? What are
That's
you doing to refurbish?
uh well, as you know, I haven't been well. I had
Right.
long-term COVID, which I'm just about getting over. So I'm working, I'm going out to walk. Um I'm I'm relaxing because I have to do that. My body still needs to sorry. My body still needs to get stronger.
Yeah, I think
So,
walking's great. It's and now the weather's here. It's like, okay,
yeah,
we might be able to do this. I was
to
out
get
there
out and do something like that. And
fully dressed and freezing and walking, but yeah, now it's going to be more fun, I do believe. But so well, this kind of ties into what we thought we might wanted to talk about today, and it's like, how are you and we in alignment with our values, and
mm,
how do we know when we're not being authentic?
mm,
So, well, it's like I think we're both saying, both Terry and I are saying we're in alignment. We're trying to get in alignment with our values too. She's trying to get healthier and get outside, and I'm trying to, give some time to myself. But it's a hard thing to do, to be in alignment. And I'm not sure what the first step is. Do you have any thoughts on that, Terry?
I'm sorry, I was
And
drinking.
choking? No.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was
Yeah.
joking.
All right.
Truthfully joking.
I guess we can take time out for that. Sure. And I was saying it just like I was just saying, do you have any thoughts on what the first step would be in getting in alignment, and
Right.
then we can move on from there. It's like
Yeah.
what is alignment? And what are we
Right.
talking about? I guess is probably a
I
better question.
so I think alignment and authenticity kind of go together,
I
right? I think when one is not true to themselves, being in alignment with what's important to you, right? What makes you you?
mm,
Um, and we know that when we're doing it, whether we're being um, false in communicating with somebody, or when we're just not being who we are. So, core values for me are integrity, trustworthy. When I'm not being truthful or in integrity with myself, then I'm out of alignment and I'm not being authentic.
yeah. That's a hard one. It's funny. I recently had a client that, and this whole thing came up, and she had her own business, and she had signed a long-term non-breakable contract with a company, and they agreed they'll pay you this much whether you do the work or not. And she had had a tiny dispute with one of the managers, and they stopped calling her in to do the work. And she's going, and I can't decide, should I cancel this contract and just say, you know what, forget about it, you don't have to pay me, because I don't like being paid for not working. She was my whole core is being of service. And
Mm.
eventually she decided that yes, she's going to give up, and it was a substantial amount of money. She's going to give up that because it wasn't in alignment. She had quit her business and gone into coaching because she wanted to be in alignment with her values. And giving things away or getting paid for non-service was not a value to her. And sometimes it's not that easy to, I mean, it wasn't easy for her, believe me, but sometimes we think, oh, sure, I can be true to myself. And sometimes it's not quite that easy. And I thought
Right.
that was like a perfect example of not being in alignment and supposedly sacrificing um, monetary value, but I think getting more value for yourself, and it's,
I get that. I left the corporate world where I was doing really well, but I was miserable.
mhm.
This is going back to 97 when I left the corporate world, um, and didn't really have much, but it was time to go and start my own entrepreneurial business. And it was a little scary, but I didn't, what I said back then was I didn't want to play in somebody else's sandbox where I didn't feel good. And it had been coming for a while.
Mhm.
And I just pulled the plug and it all worked out, but it didn't feel good. I mean, when I was there a really long time. But and I think part of staying was the golden handcuffs
Yes.
until it didn't feel good anymore.
Yeah. It's interesting because when you
So
were talking about, how you know something's wrong, you know something's wrong. There's a sense, and it gnaws at you, and you can rationalize it. You can even pro and con it, and put down all the lists of things why you should and shouldn't do. But you've got that inner feeling there, and it's so funny because I thought that when I first was becoming a coach, everybody was saying, "Oh, you should be a corporate coach. They make more money." And it was like, no, I got out of the corporate world because I don't
but
think that would be just getting back in with more knowledge. It's like, no, so yeah, it's that feeling.
and that's true.
Mhm.
I also chose to be not to go into the corporate world to coach. I didn't want to have a third party, right, who was the boss, tell me or the person I was coaching what was going on and how to coach and what they needed. So I did individual coaching, which doesn't bring in as much money, for sure.
No.
But it was okay. I was okay with the choice I made. And of course, at this point, 20 years later, it's still okay.
Hmm.
And I think it comes down to, as I was just talking to a client today, it's all about choice and consequences.
Hmm.
And what choices we make and how they make us feel and what's the consequence. Had I stayed in the company I was with, sure, I would have made the money, but I wouldn't have been happy.
Right. I love to do when people are in this dilemma, and I think almost at some point everybody's in the dilemma. Say, well, and then you look back and you go 20 years later, you go, wow, this is not what I thought I was going to do. Now, sometimes it's great, And sometimes it's like, nah, I don't think I should. I think I might have strayed from the path. But I love to do scales, it's like, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like, what is your value on? And sometimes that's easy to do. It's like, okay, what value are you not honoring? And often I find that I'm not honoring time out for myself. It's like I can fit one more person and I'm so ruled by my calendar. It's like, okay, have an hour. What can I do with
Oh,
that?
oh,
Yeah. And I have to really work hard on that. So sometimes I'm in alignment and I love it when I am. It's like, oh wow, I just spent a whole hour and I didn't really work and I did exactly what I
right,
wanted.
right.
Sometimes I'm not, and I think awareness is willing to be aware and accept that, okay, this could be a mistake, but what can I learn from it? It's like, oh, I did it again, but what am I going to learn from it? I think that's helping you get in alignment to where you want to be.
And I think it's important if you don't, when you're in alignment, right? You're authentic, you're you're buzzing along, you're
Mhm.
feeling good.
Yeah.
Um, when you're not in alignment, you know it. You
Yes.
know it. Whether you ignore it, push it aside, or make excuses, the point is you know it. And the flip side is you're doing something and you're doing it for a reason, but you're out of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that happens
Yes.
where you've got to step out, but know that that's what you're doing.
Well,
You,
it
you,
definitely happens, like you say, if you're playing in someone else's sandbox and you have to play by their rules, then it's like, oh my gosh, I would never do this in my personal life, and I got to do it here, and that's where the problem comes. Yeah.
that's true. And there are a lot of people that that one of my last podcasts, the guy that Rick Tamlin
Mm.
talked about is most people every day they just manage their lives.
Yeah.
We go about managing our lives rather than living our best lives and our best selves and being open to having new things come in. But you've got to be out there testing the waters. You have to be
Right.
brave. You have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone for things to change.
Supposedly that's where all the fun stuff is, outside your comfort zone, because you're learning and you're challenging and yeah, that's so interesting. And for those people who say, well, how do I know? How do I know what I want? How do I know? I know that how many clients have you had that come to you and go, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong here. I don't know. And that's a problem. What I do with some of my clients is just say, okay, what I want you to do is go back to when you were a kid. What is it that you wanted to do then? And it may be I wanted to be Miss America. And it's like, okay, well, how can you adopt that to right now? Because obviously you can't be Miss America. Probably you're too old because I don't deal with teenage clients, but probably you can't do that. But what can you do? What can you do? Can you do a beauty class for older people? Can you what can you do that can get you in that mindset? Or can you start a scholarship, like supposedly that's the point of Miss America, just and try to adapt that, because it was there at one point. You knew what you wanted to do, and it may not be realistic at this point, but you can make it realistic. I think you can make it realistic.
And also, that's, true. And also to find out what it meant to be Miss America.
Ah, beautiful.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
did somebody have a vision of walking on a stage and being seen and
Yeah.
having all the oohs and ahs and getting attention
Yeah.
on a stage. And, so sometimes it's what's behind the wanting to be, that's a childhood fantasy.
Mhm.
But what's behind it? And
Yeah.
maybe it was getting attention or feeling beautiful
Mhm.
or being in the spotlight.
Right, right.
Well, what could they do today? You're right, they're not going to be Miss America, but what was the need that's not being fulfilled?
I love it. Just breaking it down and saying, okay, where did this dream come from?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was somewhere.
And
Kids don't know.
right, right. And the whole idea of it's core values. They're there. They're there as a child. You adapt them, you discard them, you bring them back. So what's the core value behind all that? That I like that. I like that idea a lot. It's like, yeah, it's like, didn't we all want to be? No, I wanted to be a cowgirl, and I had I'll figure that out later. But I think it was I wanted to ride a horse and be free out there in the world. But
Okay.
all guys always want to be a fireman, or what is that? You want to save people, or what is it? Yeah.
There's a power behind that.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
something rugged, something whatever.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to have a voice, which I never had. Never.
Wow. Okay.
And I think when I got into sales, I was for, and certainly with the podcast.
Yeah. That
Uh,
immediately came to mind. It's like, well, you got one now. Yeah.
Even being president of ICF, our chapter,
Hmm.
making, I guess, having a voice, making a difference.
Right.
Because as a kid, I never felt seen, right? I never felt, I always, I think I always wanted to make a difference because I didn't feel as a child I could, right? My environment or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But getting into sales, I did on some level, and I was good at it. And then obviously becoming an entrepreneur and becoming a coach, and then the podcast. So, and I'm just thinking this through.
Yeah.
At this point, whatever that thought was, whatever the need was, I'm fulfilling that, even though I'm old. Or
Or
yeah.
older. Yeah.
So, you know, it's it's becoming, right? And really, even though you don't know it, somewhere being in alignment and being authentic kind of fell into place without my even actually working it through on the outer realm.
And that core inner
Right.
value will guide you. And you made a great point, because it's like, don't discount all the steps that you make. Who knew that sales was going to lead to entrepreneur, and who knew that we'd all get involved in coaching, and who knew that? But it's like, it's all a step. And
Right.
I think the trick is to being authentic, to accepting that, yes, this is a part of my life. What part do I want to carry on with me? What part do I need to? I did, it's done. I don't have to do that anymore. And just how can you build on that? So that's a good point. It's like, who knows what steps are going to lead you anywhere, but be open. That's always my advice. Just be open
Yes,
to
being,
whatever comes your way.
the thing is, if you stay open for whatever the reason, because who knew, you know, 10 years ago or 20 years ago when I became a coach, even before that, if somebody would have told us, probably, well,
Mhm.
you're going to be a coach. I said, what?
What is
What?
that? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But how life unfolded, in ways that, you know, when we joined the ICF board, or you know, join the chapter, who knew that we would wind up as president? I certainly didn't.
I had
It
no
wasn't
idea.
in my, you know, in the crystal ball, but it happened.
And it was one of the most rewarding experiences.
Mhm.
I'll speak for myself, but I think for you too. You got to meet so many cool people and really meet great coaches. And yeah, it was not expected, but we both went, okay, we'll do this. I think I can
Yes,
do
but
this.
that's the point.
Hmm.
It's it unfolded, and we said yes.
Yeah.
When I went to women's wear, I had no sales experience, none. And it was a territory, not just
Oh,
selling. And she took me because I was in the fashion world, but I had no sales. And I did phenomenally well. But had I said, had I thought it through
yeah.
and said, oh my God, I can't do this. I don't have sales. What if I fail? Blah, blah, blah. Instead, I said, sure,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah, it's so funny. I just got something from my college alma mater, and they're they're making a legacy for one of the presidents. And he started out in the math department. And I remember he came to me one day and he goes, you should change your major to math. And I went, are you crazy, Dr. Heitch? I said, I don't want to do math. And I just knew. But he said, no, I'll guide you. I go, no, and math, no, because I knew I was faking it. I would learn everything long enough to get the test and I was gone. I don't care about anything. But you know, you wonder, you go, oh my God, if I didn't do that, what would I have done? And you know, we don't get to go and do a redo on that. But if you feel like you missed something, you do get to go and do that. It's like I can do that now. Yeah. Let me ask you about another aspect. Not only do we need to be in alignment with ourselves, what about the other people that are involved in our world? That's the hard one, right?
I think, again, just my own
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, is I think when we're in alignment with ourselves and we are authentic, we can come from a place of authenticity. And no matter what the circumstance, who the people are, we can deal with it. Because,
Yeah.
you know, nobody is us,
No.
you know, and we make a choice. If the people we surround ourselves are energize us and are positive and have all the values that we have, then there's alignment. If there are
Right.
people in our lives that are not and don't have our values, and other than family,
Yeah.
you know, then you have a choice. You don't have to have them in your life.
Right.
Family is another thing. And if a family member isn't authentic, and, you know, there's no authenticity or no alignment, you can keep it at a distance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's a song that I love, and I can never remember who wrote it, but in essence, it said, I came to New York as a stranger and ended up with a family of friends. So it's like, yeah, there's family, there's blood, and you know, there are times when the Thanksgiving, you got to deal with all that crazy stuff, you know, but you can create your own family that with people who are in alignment and who are as authentic as you, or who accept you for who you are and you accept them for who they are. So there are two kinds of families, and it's up to you to decide, oh, who's going to drain your energy, you know,
Right.
beyond the limit there, and who you can say, okay, I can do this. I can sit through a dinner
Right,
and not
right,
a problem.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I encourage everybody to look at themselves and really ask the hard question: am I in alignment with with who I want to be. What
Yeah.
are my core values?
Yeah.
Am I adhering to them? Are they serving me or not?
Yeah.
And to take a good look at what it would look like to be authentic and be in alignment.
I like that. I think probably the first assignment I would give everybody is write down what are your core values. It's like, and it can be something like mine. My first one is fun. I want to have fun, and then, what's important to you, honesty and
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. It could be money. We're not disparaging that. It's like
Absolutely not.
and that's an honest value too. Um, I'd go a little further, like Terry says, and say, okay, what does the money mean to you? What does that represent? And and you might get even a little deeper, but write them through. If you don't know what your core values are, you're certainly not going to know how to honor them and how to
Right.
enhance them and get people in who are going to, energize you and give you more of your core. So good idea. Good idea. Well, we've got 2 minutes. What do you think? What other words of wisdom can we
Oh
drop
gosh. I think we gave a lot of wisdom today.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know, I just think everyone really has to be true to themselves, whatever that means and
Mm.
whatever that looks like. Because if
And
you're not true to yourself, you will be miserable.
you will, and listen. I mean, we're so much wiser than we think we are. Listen, because your body's going to tell you. I've always said, if your mind's not smart enough to shut you down, your body will. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be doing this. You're uh overdoing it. It's like it, but your mind is telling you, oh, I got to get this done, and then your body will just say, okay, here, you don't want to rest, watch this. And so your body will tell your body, your soul, your spirit, whatever you're thinking, it'll tell you.
You're
And
right.
listen to your inner voices because they're there, and they're there to guide you. So
Right. Absolutely.
yeah, and living in authenticity is probably the way you want to go. Yeah. So Terry, we got 30 seconds here
So I'm going to
as
just
usual.
say it's been great. Happy spring, summer.
Yeah, yeah. And
We'll
yeah,
be back.
go out and honor yourself and do something
Mm,
really cool. I think we're both trying to do that ourselves and figure out what that's going to mean to you. Meanwhile, we will see you next month.
we will.
Always
Take
fun,
care.
Terry. Thank you
Always
so
fun.
much.
Thank you, Laurie.
Bye bye.
Bye.